Hey, hey, what's going on? What's going on? I'm gonna give this a moment or two for you guys to get online. Okay, what up, Lydia? First up, lovely Lynn, what's going on? You ready for this edition? Hope you are. Southern Girl Bling, what up with you? Okay. Words Wifey, what's going on? If you're just now coming online in the first minute, I'm very, very grateful for the warm energy early. And I need you to just let me know if you can hear me clearly, if everything is well, if there's no delays or anything. Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up or something. Okay, I appreciate that, Wifey. Appreciate that. Okay, good stuff. So, as you already know, for some of you who are, regulars, I see you. Southern, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that you can hear me, you can see me good, and all is well. So, this is Wednesdays with West, and, I invite you to, ask questions, and let's have the kind of dialogue that is going to be engaging, entertaining, of course, and reflective of what your interests are, what your concerns are, your comments are. We all grown here, so ask away, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. What's going on, babe? Coming in all the way from Canada. Thank you, baby. Appreciate that. Dutch is in the building. Okay. Ask away. I need y'all to ask some questions. I know it's been a week since I gave you guys the Caribbean edition when I was down in Jamaica last week. So, how about you guys, ask me a question or give me a situation, a scenario, because, as I mentioned before, I have some questions. I got questions that I can ask you, that I can ask out, and answer. But I really want to make sure that I'm getting your questions and, whatever your scenarios or situations are. And maybe something that you're going through with your significant other or a friend. You could be talking on behalf of a friend, if that's your excuse, whatever. But ask away. Levant Dorsey, what up? Big Man Culture, what up? Mike Moss in the building. Moss, ask your questions, man. I know, you hit me on a DM about that situation, but, you can ask in public. It's all right. I'm just playing. I'm just messing with him because I know he's going to take a jab at me. I just figured I'd take a jab first. He doesn't pull back punches. But anyway, so this is Wednesdays with Wes, and what we do is we ask questions, and we have dialogue about all types of things about relationships. This is like something that we do in between the relationship script, which is our format, our approach towards stemming good dialogue between all the significant others that are in the building that could possibly be out there, in terms of bridging the gap. It doesn't matter who you are, what your age group is, or what your status is. The relationship script is established so that you can actually have that dialogue in a way that you don't feel like it's overbearing or it's too clinical or anything like that. It's good information, quality information, but it's also relevant information. So in between those events that the relationship script does, we got Wednesdays with Wes, and we're going to be inviting other people to join us also as we go forward. Jason, what's going on? I see you, man. Appreciate that. Allie, what's going on? But again, if you have a question right now you want to ask, please ask away so that we can make sure that we're responding to your questions. And I'm sure that the question you have may be a question that somebody else has as well. And, they could also benefit from it because they may not have the heart that you have. So who's going to be the first to ask a question, a brave one, amongst the group that is that's forming and growing right now? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Anyone typing yet? If not, then what I'll first start off with is a question from the question, I guess you call it basket, right? The question basket. And these are some of the questions that were asked at our last event. And as you know, at our events, we ask for random and anonymous questions. So, so that the person that writes the question doesn't feel like they have to, edit it in any way, shape, or form. So I can go to that basket, or if you have a question right away, we can go to that. I know that there are a couple of questions that are actually in my DM, the DM for the relationship script that we received, and I'll make sure that I cover those questions as well, okay? All right. So, just want to pick one. All right. Okay, so the question here is, what is the best way to approach the topic of suspected infidelity? For example, when you see an inappropriate text. This is very important. Now, I'm going to first start with this example that this person wrote, which is the inappropriate text. It's important in relationships that you define what inappropriate is. Now, many times people lean back and they say, you know what inappropriate is. Inappropriate is anything that you wouldn't want done to you. And I hear you. The problem is we still haven't actually defined it or given some good examples. So have the conversation with your significant other about what you think may be an inappropriate text. For instance, if you get a text at 11 o'clock at night, is that inappropriate? Some people may say yes, others may say no. Again, it's up to you to define it. If in the text itself, it has certain things like, hey baby doll, blah, blah, blah. Or hey boo, blah, blah, blah. Again, if that's a nickname, that's one thing. Is it a term of endearment? What does that actually mean? So be very specific, be very intentional about having this conversation about what you feel is respectful or disrespectful when it comes to, conversations or text. Now, text is also so important because why? We got DMs, right? We got inboxing happening in addition to just, your regular text. So it's no longer are we just talking about a text to your phone in terms of, they texting your phone number, but people sliding into those DMs and they're going to say what they're going to say. In many instances, it may be an innocent comment, but in a lot of other instances, they're shooting a shot. So, what's really disrespectful? Somebody in that situation when you read an inappropriate text, they could have been shooting a shot. And in that situation, I wouldn't necessarily say that person is guilty of some kind of infidelity. However, if in that text thread you see some back and forth, well, there you go. You have to go ahead and address them in terms of, you're having some inappropriate dialogue and how you feel about that and how that is a form of infidelity. Some people may argue and say, well, we didn't actually do anything physical. But physical is just one form of infidelity. Another form of infidelity is emotional infidelity, where you're talking with someone and you're sharing some real intimate details. That's a form of infidelity. Another form of infidelity is when you're flirting real heavy and you're talking dirty. You may not have done anything, but the intent is there, or you're teasing that person. You're bringing them along, and that's not appropriate either. So again, naturally, when you start talking about infidelity, we automatically think about something that's physical, but there are other forms of infidelity. So the way that you would talk about that is, number one, you want to identify what's infidelity and what's disrespectful, what you consider being respectful is all about. And then, of course, when you have something that's real clear and your mate is out there doing what they're doing, then you have to have a discussion about, whether you're going to part ways or if you're going to heal beyond that situation and move forward, okay? Also, catching them, in an inappropriate text or a situation like that, remember one other thing that you're mentioning here, and that is, you breaking the trust when it comes to privacy. So, if you're in their stuff doing all that, well, that's something else you need to consider in terms of where your level of trust is and deal with that head on as well. Jam down lady, Wagwan, Kara, what up? Okay, so if you're just now tuning in, this is Wednesdays with Wes, where we talk about everything relationship. And the goal at the end of the day is to make sure that the information that we provide is relevant. The way that we guarantee is relevant is with your participation. So I need you to participate by way of asking all types of questions. It doesn't matter. Everyone here is grown, and if you're not, I need you to get off right now, okay? But the goal is to have some, mature dialogue about questions, concerns, comments that you have, and all things that are relationships. Of course, we have our basket of questions, of random and anonymous questions, but I'd like to hear from you guys about what some of your questions are, and make it more relevant to you, make it more of a custom fit, if that's all right. Now, I know we have some viewers, and thanks for everybody that's tuning in, but I'd really like to learn what some of your concerns are. what took place this past week since we last talked, since we last met up, in your relationship or your situation, whatever may be the case. If you're walking out there single and celibate, or just single and having a good time, what are some of the scenarios or situations that you're experiencing that perhaps you may want some additional perspective on? All those things and more we want to discuss on Wednesdays with Wes. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we're going to have some guests going forward as well, so that you're not just seeing my big head on the screen, you'll be seeing some other people's big head on the screen as we talk about it. So I encourage you to not just ask questions, but also, if you want to share this with other people, please do that, so that we can continue to grow and make this a very rich experience. So since everyone is being quiet, because I don't see any questions yet. You guys did y'all have something to eat that's a little heavy on your stomach? Are you sleepy? I don't understand what's going on. Why? Jason, nothing. Mike, nothing. I know, Allie, you got a question, right? Let me perhaps I'll get to your question in a little bit. So I see you guys are real quiet. So let me just go ahead to this this basket of random and anonymous questions and pull something out. This question reads, why do people take no's so personal from a partner? That's interesting. Well, it depends about, what are we talking about when we say no's? Obviously, in most cases, we're talking about, some kind of advance towards your partner, or something that you want from your partner, and your partner says no. So, no's are, a form, the number one basic form of rejection. And so with that form of rejection, you got to think about, how you're going to interpret it is going to be all the way personal. You're not in the workplace. You're not a part of some club or, some kind of group activity where that person saying no to you, you can probably attribute to, the event or just the overall organization, that type of thing, or some other rule that's overarching. In most cases, when someone that is significant to you says no to you, well, you're going to interpret it as very personal. So rejection overall is a very tough thing to digest for most people. So if you receive a no from your significant other, it's going to hurt a little bit. Most people are going to be a little hurt by that or taken aback by it. However, how you say the no is also very important. So if you say no to them, are you being rude or mean about it? Mr. Newton said, tact is the knack for making a point without making an enemy. So what that basically means is that you can have a position that is, against your mate, where you don't agree with them and you're saying no to them for whatever reason. But also, if you do it tactfully, maybe it goes down a little bit easier. Marshall, what's going on? I see you. Allie, you said, I'd rather hear no than a yes that wasn't genuine. I agree with you. Some people can just become yes men or yes women and really don't mean it. And at some point, after saying yes so often and you really don't mean those yeses, well, you become numb. So someone saying no can be a good example of them, living through their convictions. That's good. But again, be mindful how you do it. Be mindful how you do it, because you are talking about feelings, and in a relationship, well, that's when you're supposed to be, you're most transparent and vulnerable. And so when someone does share something, whether it is something they want from you or something about themselves, and you in some way, shape, or form may demonstrate some level of not approving or giving them a no, just be careful how you do it. Let them down easy, so that it's not such a negative situation. Cats, what's going on? I see you. Tamara Dawn, how you doing? I see you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, right? Good day to everybody. So, questions. We want some questions from the audience. I see as more people are getting on board, I still don't see anybody asking questions. Everybody's just watching. Nobody wants to talk. But maybe you guys are going to loosen up a little bit. I thought that, when we do the relationship script at, 9 o'clock, it gives you a chance to kind of decompress a little bit after getting off work, or to even, relax a little bit after just an interesting day, whatever you've been going through, so that you can kind of reflect and give us, some content. And the content being, what kind of question that may be arising from, how you've reflected on your relationship, or past relationships too, by the way. Relationships is a very classic topic, right? We all have stories or situations that we can recall where, the characters involved were, well, let's just say entertaining. So don't feel like, by sharing your question or comment that it's going to be a judgment session. Not at all. It's actually the opposite. No judgment. We just want questions so that at the end of the day, we're talking to the audience that's out there and not just prescribing things out of the blue to discuss. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does. If it does, give me a high five, a hand, or something like that, okay? Katz, I see you asked a question, which is, what's your opinion on older women dating younger men? This is hilarious because we were just talking about this a little while ago. And an older woman dating a younger man, I don't think there's an issue with that. I do think, though, that not enough women are doing that. I don't think enough women that are mature are allowing that to happen. And the reason why I say that is because, you see a number and then automatically, I told him to go ahead and kick rocks, or, he's just too young. But I subscribe to a different philosophy, and that is seek first to understand, before you just go ahead and make a quick judgment. If somebody is, if you're 40 and they are in their 20s, I understand how your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, I'm not dating them. Listen, I need you to go back to school, go back to your playpen or your daycare. Whatever you need to do, just get out of my face if you're that much younger than me. However, I would be curious, just a little bit curious about, what gave them the gumption? What gave them the mindset to come at me, knowing that I'm much older than them? So for the older women that are out there, the more mature women, what they call it? Cougars out there, and you see a young man and y'all having some conversation and y'all interacting and you like the vibe, go with it. Go with it. I don't think there's an issue at all. What's going on, the bougie gentleman? What's going on with you? Mr. PDQ, what up? But I think at the end of the day, pay attention. That's all. Take inventory. Get to know that person. And maybe there's a lot more there that you have in common than what you're willing to actually admit initially. But again, variety is the spice of life. So if someone younger approaches you, old head, it's okay. Just have the conversation. Get to know them. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be that you get married and all that good stuff. You may have a great experience with that person. So, all right, Allie, I see you said, how old do you have to be called a cougar? Good one. You trying to get me in trouble out here. I see that. That's a trick question, right? You trying to get me. All right, well, cougars are usually in their late 40s, early 50s. You're called a cougar. You're a sexy old head, like, late 30s, and up until your late 40s. That's really what it is, and I'm talking about it as I've talked with millennials and a little bit younger than the millennials. They're going to see once you're in your 30s, they're going to start thinking of you as a little bit of an old head, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't call, those aren't my definitions for cougars. I don't want anybody to, be side-eyeing me and leaving me death threats in my DM. So let's just be clear about that. All right. But a cougar really is a very subjective term. So, there are people out there living their best life, and they're in their 50s and 60s. These days are very interesting in terms of how we define what old is versus, what too old is. Okay. So, I see it says, Cash, you said, do you think a relationship will work if the woman makes more money than the man? Some men are intimidated. Cash, you just answered that. Some men are intimidated, not all men. So at the end of the day, there are men that, that understand what makes a real man isn't necessarily just all the O's on his paycheck, but a number of other things. So if she makes more money than him, that's fine. What really matters is how she treats him and how he treats her. That's what really matters. So, a woman that earns more than a man, if she takes on this kind of thing, well, I earn more than you, so she talks greasy or is disrespectful, dismissive, that's not going to work. But if she continues to be respectful and submissive as he should be submissive and obedient to him as he should be to her, I don't think there's an issue at all. It is just money. Now, money can do a lot of great things, but it doesn't shift in terms of what level of respect or deference you should you should show your mate. All right. Okay, Kat said, I'm not a cougar yet. I hear you. That's what's up. Jam Down said, how do you deal with you and your partner having opposing political views in this charged political climate? That's a good question. Again, I'm going to lean back on seeking first to understand. So instead of just automatically saying, well, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, or you like this particular candidate, how could you just, really pause for a second and get to understand the rationale? And in their rationale, in their response, if you're actually listening, you're going to find out what's important to them. So in the midst of this political debate that you're about to have with your significant other, you're actually going to get to a higher level of intimacy as you learn more about what's important to them in terms of what represents, good character, what are great, components of a candidate, what are some of their concerns in terms of their environment, their community, their future. And that's good, because sometimes we don't have that intentional dialogue amongst each other without, sorry about that. Somebody was blown. But so I hope that that you have the patience as you're having that conversation with your significant other to discuss what what really is behind that particular difference that you have when it comes to political affiliation. All right? Ask more questions. I love those questions. Those are great. Ali, I see you. You're in total denial. No, now you're not. I see you saying, Cats, what's going on? I see you cracking up. And Lydia, well, I guess you saying late 30s, huh? So yeah, I guess you must be close to that. But don't worry about it. Just embrace it. Embrace it. You use lots of coconut oil and work out and all that other good stuff. Marsha, there you go. She's professing I am a cougar. There's nothing wrong with that. Kara's cracking up, and Allie is all the cougar comments. Well, I had to keep it real. Even though somebody tried to set me up and asked me what did I believe is the number, the age that goes with that when a cougar starts or begins. Sorry about that. There we go. So do you think, Katz asks the question, do you think it's selfish to not date a man without kids or grown kids? To not date a man without kids or grown kids. Well, that means that you don't want any more kids, right? So in that situation, no, I think that if, you got to know what you like. You got to know what your speed is. And if someone that you're dating is going to potentially change the dynamics, meaning, you're in a place and space where you're like, what, I don't want any more kids. And you're dating someone that, it's pretty apparent that they don't have any kids and that they may want kids. Well, you already know that this is a catastrophe if you're not willing to do the alternative, which is to adopt, right? And so you should nip it in the bud. If this person feels strongly and there's nothing wrong with the person wanting to have children, then you got to have that mature conversation and say, well, I'm done. My season is over for bearing children, and this is where we got to part ways if you're not willing to adopt a child or maybe take some of your eggs and then freeze them and then put them somewhere and then have someone carry it. If you got the dollars and the patience to go that path, perhaps. Or maybe you're just out of that season in terms of rearing a child that young, right? You've been through all of that and you don't want to relive it. So again, in the interest of managing people's expectation, in the interest of saving time, you want to go ahead and tell them up front, this store is closed. This shop is not going to pop out any more babies. Lydia talking about disrespectful. I don't know what she's talking about. Artina, what's going on? What's going on, Ms. Moore? We're going to have you on board one of these days, one of these Wednesdays. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you and have you as a guest on Wednesdays with Wes. So looking forward to that. Thanks. In the meantime, if you got a question or whatever that you would like to join in on, listen, I'm looking forward to fielding that question. Lynn, what's going on? Nina, what's going on? Hola, ¿cómo está? Okay. Cots, I see you still cracking up. RTJ's in the building. What's going on? All right, so, right, I hear you, Marshall. You're right. I said store when I should have meant, the shop. We're not purchasing anything, right? That's a different topic. If you want to ask the question, that's fine, but I didn't mean it like that. So we are answering questions. I need you to ask questions. Give us questions, scenarios. It's all good. We all mature here. And this is Wednesdays with Wes. Every Wednesday, 9 p.m. I'm going to do my best to keep this schedule. And regardless of where I'm at, if you caught me last week, I did Wednesday with Wes in Jamaica. And it was amazing. Obviously, it was hard to stay focused as with all the palm trees and the beautiful air. It was tough. So I had to do it on the inside of a building so I could not be distracted too much. Sunkissed Chalk, what's going on? Wonderfully made. What's going on? I see you. Thanks for joining the conversation. This conversation is about you, by the way. It's not about me. I'm not just here to just talk about what I believe relationships are all about, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? What really matters is what you're thinking. What are your questions and your comments and concerns? So I'm looking forward to answering your questions. So get some heart, get some courage, ask the question right here in this forum. If for whatever reason you're too shy or the question is a little too whatever and you want to be, just anonymous about it, well, DM me, and what I'll do is I'll make sure I catch that question the next round, okay? Or if my team can, post a question from the DM, that'll be great as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask my team to go into the DM right now for the relationship script and pull up some questions and ask the questions on this so that we can go ahead and eliminate your name from it and it can remain anonymous. So if you have an anonymous question, go ahead and DM me and, I'll make sure to answer that question in front of everyone, okay? From 30,000 feet, evening, Mr. West. Okay, RT, you must be in a plane. All right, I see you. That's what's up, okay? So we have friends from all over. It doesn't matter. I know ATL's here. I have Canada in the building. I have New York, Philly, DC, and now we're 30,000 feet in the air right now. That's fire. So we're all over right now. So simply amazing. What's going on? I see you. Thanks for joining us. Any more questions right now? Before I go to this basket of questions, I'd rather answer yours. No disrespect to these, but these are from from the relationship script. They're random and anonymous questions we ask our audience members to fill out. So usually we get so many of them. I have some extra ones here that I usually just throw into this basket. I shake them around. I pull one out, and you guys can hear it. All right. Father Drew, what up? Cass, okay, before you asking another question, that's what's up. Can a relationship be okay if your partner is still friends with the ex-wife or husband, baby mama, baby daddy, right? Calling, texting, visiting, all that good stuff. Very good question. Very good question. The answer is, well, it depends on really the state of the relationship. How strong is that relationship that you have? If you feel secure versus are you feeling insecure? And how transparent are they being? So, if you have the level of trust where it should be in terms of being transparent and open and having the conversations, in front of one another, that's great. If the behavior is different when you come around or something to that effect, then maybe there's something that you should be concerned about. I wouldn't say to raise it to the level of, feeling like there's some form of infidelity, but it's something that you should talk about, because at the end of the day, the reason why most of these situations are very tenuous is that you don't tend to feel like as much a priority when this is happening, when those friendships are happening or things of that nature. And if you feel like, well, they had a good, relationship at some point, but now they are friends and it's platonic, well, again, I think at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any issue with that. But if there are trust issues, if you yourself have not necessarily healed from past situations involving infidelity, you should be honest with your partner and let them know that you don't feel comfortable in this situation, and you would appreciate it if they severed that relationship because you're just not in that place. It's better that you're honest about wherever you may wherever that insecurity is coming from, and build on that. And hopefully they can get to a place where when involving trust as well as your growth, where maybe that's possible. Okay, Ms. Moore, you said, what are your thoughts on polygamous relationships? Well, that's a very interesting question. Polygamous relationships, again, that's for me, I think that's a very unique mix of people. And what really, I guess, spurs my curiosity is when I'm talking to someone who's in a polygamous relationship, in terms of, what was the catalyst for it? At which point did they believe that this was something that was a good fit for them? And I like to listen to that. And many times, they talk about past relationships. They talk about their needs and how this is very practical. The overarching theme, and many times when I've had conversations with people in these types of relationships, is that it serves a certain kind of function. Less about the actual feeling in terms of like warm and really connected, but being a part of a bigger unit, having levels of support, knowing what it is, and I guess greater forms of transparency, which in many ways make them feel more secure and stable in that relationship when they know what all the moving parts are. So in terms of whether or not it's right or wrong, that's not something that I really have a specific opinion of. The reality is that there are so many. When you start talking about globally, and this idea of polygamy and polygamous, there are a lot. There's a high representation of this form of relationship. And when you start also talking about the pathology of relationships, the history, there are again countless. Where you're talking about hundreds of years, centuries. Of polygamy being something that has existed, and monogamy being something that is actually the newer kid on the block in terms of with Christianity and things of that nature. And we would be all day talking about the nuances of that. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about the people that are involved, it involves a high level of communication, high level of trust, and then really getting down to the source. If that's something that's really a fit for you. In many instances, people are coming out of damaged relationships and experiences, and then they transition into a polygamous or polygamy, centered kind of situation, and that becomes their rationale for it. Higher levels of transparency and trust that they desired that they didn't get fulfilled in a prior relationship. From a religious standpoint, if you're talking about, whether you're talking about, I won't even mention the religions, right? But from a religious standpoint, at the end of the day, there are a lot of text and instruction that talks about this being fine. And again, when people function through their faith, it's a whole different ball of wax. I see some other comments and questions, so let me get to them. I hope I answered your question, Ms. Moore, satisfactorily. Trying to get everyone a chance to ask a question. Told you you'll talk me to death with thousands of questions. Cats, you're definitely being a person of your word. I'm just messing with you, just jokes. I love your questions because real talk. Remember, there were times I was asking everyone questions and it was crickets for a second. So feel free to fill up that space with all of the questions you have. And if for whatever reason I don't answer all of your questions, then, go ahead and DM me and I'll make sure to get to you. All right. Lydia, I see you see there's a question that came in. Are women out here going out to dinner to score a free meal? Whoa. Well, listen, let's be honest. Let's be honest, because I know some of you right now about to just click off and just be like, you know what, or send me some hater DM. But you know who you are, okay? You know who you are. On the Tuesday and Thursdays, you're reaching out early to be like, yo, what we doing, okay? You know who you are, okay? There's a lot of women out there that are out there getting the free meals. You know who you are. And you got the dude across the table all happy like it's his first day of school or something, or excited like it's Christmas Eve, and you sitting there like, hold on, what we ordering, what we getting? You know it. It's a fact, okay? A lot of women are out there getting free meals. And I'm not saying that you can't afford it. Some of y'all can't afford it. No, real talk. Let me take that back. Some of y'all can't afford it. But here's the reality. The reality is that people use other people. Okay, and if you want a nice meal, and there are guys out there, girls out there that are offering to take you out, take you to somewhere nice, why not? And if you can bear them, then guess what? That's what a lot of people are doing. But I'm just a word of caution. when you're going out there and you're getting your free meal, don't be scared. Manage expectations. Be honest, okay? It's okay. Look, I just want to get to know you, just getting to know you. Yes, you're in the friend zone. No, I wouldn't say all that. But I would say, just getting to know you. No, I'm not interested on that level or whatever, but, if you like to have dinner, if you want to go to dinner, that's fine. We can go to dinner, strictly platonic, blah, blah, blah. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But playing someone for a meal or a couple of meals, some of you out there are just... I don't even know what to say. Some of you out there are dangerous. I'm talking about you get those meal series. We're going to hit up Ocean Prime, then we're going to go to Del Frisco's, then we're going to go to Capitol Grill, then we're going to go... Stop. Don't do that to him or her. Don't do that. Just, if you're getting to know somebody, they offer to take you out or, for some drinks or a meal, enjoy yourself. But manage and eat responsibly. Okay? Eat responsibly. Cats, don't be quiet for a minute. It's okay. Speak your mind. You got more questions? Keep them coming, okay? Just like Lydia mentioned. Okay, L Boogie's in the building. What up with you? Sunkiss, I see you. Yeah, you said I've never went out on a date for a free meal. That's out. Okay, that's good. But there are those who do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't clean the boy out. Don't do the tour. Don't treat it like it's restaurant week when it's not. And come and accept that invitation. Don't do that. Okay, Appy, I see you. What's going on? The topic here, Appy, is whatever you want the topic to be. By the way, so this is Wednesdays with Wes. And the goal is, at the end of the day, is that the questions you have that are relationship-oriented, ask away. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that the questions that you ask or the answers that I give are related to that. And instead of me just talking about relationships overall or having a specific topic. But coming up in the very near future, we will have some specific topics. We will have some guests. There are some things that we're going to do different. It's not every week where you just see my big head up on the screen just talking about, or responding to your questions, but we will have some additional programming. The point is that as we are kicking off, I wanted to make sure that I fielded as many questions as I could get from you guys, the audience, and we kept this lively, interactive, and relevant. Okay. Bossy, I am bossy. Yes, I see you. What's going on? All right, Levant, he says, what do you think is the reason women stay around for so long after communicating multiple times what they need and still not receiving what they need? Very good question. Well, many times it's after you give someone a chance, another chance, right? You communicated, a third chance, and you're like, okay, I'm almost done. Sometimes you now got to look back and say, well, how long have you been there? And often out of convenience, we tend to stay in relationships longer than we should. Knowing that at the end of the day, the writing's on the wall. It's not a fit. It's not we're not gelling the way we should. We're not progressing the way we should. Our thoughts, our desires for our future and things that we hold very true or are very passionate about, our priorities are not in alignment. And so when we think about these things and we realize that experience after experience, things are not, coming together the way that we like to, what we tend to do then is just kind of settle for a moment, stay still for a moment, and look at how much time has gone by or how inconvenient the breakup will possibly be. And out of fear, we tend to stay in this settled position. So that's the reason why many times we stay in these relationships that we should be out of for longer than we should. It's not because we're just in love so much that we can't help ourselves. In many instances, the idea of getting into this uncomfortable space again, becoming single, dating again, being alone, all those things do also play a factor into whether or not we're ready to transition, even though we feel like we already know it's not a good fit. Okay. I hope I answered your question. All right. Allie, you said, I think only a certain caliber of women would go out with a man just to get a free meal. I would not go out with a man, if you're not interested in him. And I see, Ms. Moore, you said you agree. Yeah, you're right on the topic of if you're not interested in that person. But again, we have levels of interest. That's all. We have levels of interest. Okay. I see you, Schools. What's going on? Julia, what up? What do I think is the reason women stay around so long after? Okay, I caught that earlier. Okay. Cats, views on interracial dating. Tried it. I got a lot of negativity. Well, I've done the same. I've done interracial dating before as well, and my views on it is that a person is a person. Do I have a special affiliation, a special love for my sisters? Absolutely. And I think that if you can find love within your race, absolutely build up the race and reaffirm culture, values, heritage, things of that nature. I'm a big fan of that. But at the end of the day, people are people. If you can find somebody who has a great heart, loves you, adores you, is willing to grow with you, build with you, someone that you trust, someone you can have fun with, someone that you can be engaged with in terms of mindset or spirit, similar beliefs, and you someone you could pray with, that type of thing. If they just happen to be of another race, then those are the chips. I don't believe that your significant other must be, but I do believe that you should be intentional in terms of looking first in your backyard, but at the end of the day, not ignoring if you have some synergy, some chemistry with someone that is of a different race. So if you run into instead of talking to Mark or Jason, you talking to Billy over there or Jimmer, hey, if that's your speed, in terms of how you guys are gelling, have at it. Okay. I see you there. You said schools. You said I think we fall in love with potential. You're right. Many times we're too busy looking at something and saying, what, we have this is a good fixer-upper, and I know what I could do with that person. And we get caught up and we romanticize, just what this person could possibly be, without paying attention to what are the things that they're actually doing towards that, right? So you see the potential, and then now your dreams and your thoughts are produced by Disney, and you're creating all this amazing, fantastical type stuff. But the reality is, when you look at them, they're still on the couch. No, you're not doing that, okay? And just like one of the other Disney characters, they have to sing all the time, not just when they're with you in private, but what do they do outside of your view? They can't be the frog that sings just to you in private. They got to be able to sing to the world and show their real potential and be able to go out there and get it, okay? So I agree with you. We get caught up in someone's potential, not looking at who they really are and what they're doing towards realizing their potential. Okay, what do you say to a woman that is afraid that marriage will never come to her? Well, to be patient, to do the best, and understand that at the end of the day, also, marriage is not the end all be all. Marriage isn't for everyone. The thing that we typically toil with, that we get frustrated by, is a sense that if we do X, Y, and Z, this will happen. Well, again, you hear me reference a lot about Disney stuff, but another thing that we believe as a society that really puts us in a bad, with a bad attitude or a bad sense of, of being gypped or taken advantage of in life, is the sense of entitlement. And we all have it at times. You work hard, you're supposed to get, you just increase the chances. You increase the chances of finding love, of getting married and things of the nature. That doesn't guarantee that you will have this certain outcome. It just increases the likelihood. So when we talk about, healing, loving yourself again, removing some of those barriers, forgiveness, dating yourself, courting and managing expectation, increasing your level of trust and vulnerability and transparency and all that good stuff, and being respectful and praying together and all that good stuff, it doesn't mean automatically, well, you're going to see a ring. What it means is that you've increased the chances of that outcome, but nothing's guaranteed. So don't look at your life or just overall success as being married. That's one aspect or one component, but it's not the only way that that you can be happy, that you can feel fulfilled. Okay, so that's what I would say to that person. Be patient, be your best self, continue to love yourself, and don't, because of the lack of being married or whatever, feel like you're less of a person, or that or feel the pressure to then hook up with somebody with thinking that that's going to be the outcome, and ultimately settle, which will lead to you being actually more feel more sad or even potentially lonely than if you were actually single. Joy, what's going on? I see the Joy Life. Okay, so I hope I've been able to answer you guys in a way that you were satisfied. If you have any more questions, I'm looking forward to answering those questions. I love this. I love this interaction. I love the fact that as you ask questions, and I'm giving you some answers that you can feel that these questions that you're asking are being answered in a way that that you walk away with a different perspective, or in certain instances, your perspective being validated to some extent. If you don't agree, I'm listening as well. By the way, I'm always, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always studying and reading and learning more. So I would never profess to know all things and everything. I do think that from my past experience and in my current experience, what I do day to day, that it provides me, affords me, a certain perspective when it comes to relationships. But I'm always listening for your input. So feel free after this conversation, during this conversation, to DM us and give us some thoughts on some of the things we talked about. Uniqua, what's going on? Thanks for joining. Kara, I see you giving me the time. We got about 14 minutes left, and before we're out, let's talk about the dichotomy of expectations versus standards. What is the difference to you? Woo, Sunkissed. Okay, coming at it, huh? Coming at me with the expectations versus standards. Well, here's the difference. What you expect is typically, what I would say is more of the passive in terms of what your expectations are. It's a passive approach towards, you're looking, you're watching, you have certain standards. It's a little different. Standards typically are, things that we function and then we expect the same of. Expectations don't necessarily mean that that you're doing the same thing. It just means that that's what you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're putting out there. Typically, when we talk about standards, we usually are also demonstrating some level of a standard that's close to what we expect. Versus the expectations, a lot of times expectations tend to be higher than what we're actually putting out there in the world. So that's my humble, definition of the difference between an expectation and a standard. If you wear Prada and Gucci and all that stuff, if you're expecting, in terms of your gifts, as a result of that, because, again, that's what you wear, that's different. But some people are sitting around, wearing, 5 and below stuff, and then they're expecting, to get, something else. That's different. So expectations, a lot of times when we talk about the infamous list that some people have, right? With the list, it talks a lot about expectations. However, when we do some more inventory, we can really get to what our real standards are, because, we start talking about how do we move, and we expect people to move in a similar kind of way. And so there you have it from me. All right. Southern. Okay. I see you jumping out there, and I see Sunkissed. Okay. Passive is the magic. I hear you. Ms. Moore, you saying truth. Thank you very much. Southern says, I am not a forward person, nor would I be able to walk up to a guy and tell him that I like him and that I'm interested in him. What are ways to let a guy know you're interested in him? Well, you can do it with your eyes. See that? You can do it with your eyes. You can, the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? So a lot of times, just, when a man is, paying attention to you, he's looking at you, he's checking all of you out, but at some point your eyes will meet. And many times, a woman, when she sees another guy, she sees a guy or whatever, she looks away, she may look straight through him, like, what are you looking at, But there's a way that you can look at a guy to let him know that you're also pleased with what you see. So eyes is one way. Another way is, I mean, it could be a gesture. It could be just, your smile, by the way. It could be your smile. Again, being open. Your body language says a whole lot to a man, because ultimately we're all animals, by the way. So just as we're out there hunting, right, we are looking to see who wants to be caught. And many times the body language will tell you whether or not a woman wants to be bothered or not. So if you're facing him, if your arms are open, if they're not crossing you, looking like, what do you want, that kind of thing. These are, the body language says a whole lot in terms of whether or not you're interested. And should he say something to you, how you engage, how you respond to him says a whole lot too. Don't be short, don't be curt with him. Be pleasant, communicate and laugh and smile. And even if he's not that funny, give him the benefit of the doubt and keep the conversation going. So I hope those are some ways that you can adopt your current, behavior to invite guys, to have some interaction, some dialogue with you. Okay. Okay, Sunkiss is agreeing, huh? Okay, with the question. So I hope my answers were good, and we can go into detail. And at some point, hopefully when you come out to the script, we can even talk more, because we'll be in a social setting, and we can actually put some things into play when you come to the relationship script. All right. So hopefully you're local and you can come to the relationship script, or you can check us out because we will be in DC at some point later on this year. I know we're in Atlanta as well. Back here in Philly, I think we got something on the Moshulu in August. So we're going to be moving around, and if we're not in your part of the town, well, maybe we can talk offline about how we can do that, okay? Levant, you mentioned what intentional steps do you feel a person should take to ensure that they do not fall for the same characteristics in their mate that were detrimental to their previous relationship? That's a good one. This is where you take inventory, post-relationship inventory. You identify where you may have made some missteps, some bad decisions, if you will, and you keep those top of mind. But you don't obsess over it to the point where you become hypersensitive and you don't deal with, the person that's present, but you're dealing with too much of the ghosts of the past. There's a balance there. So you see certain characteristics that you like from your past relationship, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be identical in your current relationship, but you should think about how many of those characteristics are showing up, and that's when you can say to yourself, you know what, I think I'm doing the same thing. Realize something, by the way. When you think about your past relationship, what was the context? What was the backstory? What kind of season was it? What were all the things that contributed to you and this person coming together? And be careful to not go through, Groundhog's Day, if you will, in terms of creating that same kind of situation in terms of, whatever it may be, whether it's a certain season, whether it is certain conditions, and then, gelling with somebody again. And also, more importantly, in between those relationships, please take some time. Take some time again to get to know yourself, date yourself. Post-relationship dating is important. And I mean post-relationship dating of yourself is important. Get to know and take inventory of what's new about you and what's changed and what went wrong with that past relationship and all that other good stuff, okay? I hope I answered that. Kara, I see you. Thank you very much. We are closing in on about 6 minutes. Kat said, eyes didn't work for me. Guess he wasn't interested. Well, that's the reality too. You may work the eyes on them and do everything, and then they just walk by. Well, it's sometimes it's just not a fit, right? In that situation, just because you're interested doesn't mean they are, and just because someone has been interested, right? I'm pretty sure there have been times when you said no, stop, bye, boy, no, we're not doing that, right? So there you have it. We're gonna start to close out shortly, but when is the next one in terms of the relationship script? My team will respond right there on the screen and give you some dates. I see Lydia got it. She said August 30th on the Moshulu. That's that's here in Philadelphia. I think we have another engagement in Atlanta earlier in August, so that's happening. Then I think we're in Atlanta again in October. And as for DC, we're working out some details now with the venue. Cross our fingers, everything works out, and we may be in DC before that. But we'll see how that goes, right? Because July is like Monday, right? So who knows? Cats, I see you. You're going to be in Atlanta. Hopefully you can make it down there. That's what's up. Sun Kiss, you're going to be on Emotional Loop. That's what's up. I'll see you there. All right. And that's right. We're August 9th. We'll be in ATL. What else? Here's the last question, okay? Is it true that a man knows what he wants from you immediately, whether it be a wife or your situation, a situationship? That's a very good question, and that'll be the last question for this evening. Yes and no. I think men may have an initial interest or attraction. However, how much they learn about you is very key. Excuse me, sorry about that. How much they learn about you is very key as to whether or not, at the end of the day, when you're talking about meeting somebody, where do you meet them? Again, my phone is blowing up, so it may be going in and out. I'm not sure if you see the pause in the video. Look for certain things at certain times in their life. If somebody's just looking for a situation, more than likely that's all they want. However, I can tell you that many times when people, meet someone and they think, well, we're just going to kick it, and they find out and they learn more about that individual, it can grow into something. However, again, how do you conduct yourself? If you're in a situation where, you had different expectations or you had no expectations, you just kind of said it's just going to be whatever. Congratulations. Whoever decides to define it first, well, they'll go ahead and they'll take the lead, and it's up to you whether or not you want to continue down that path. So some men, I think, are definitely, focused on having a relationship, serial monogamists that are looking intently on having a relationship. And then you have others that are looking for, a situation or just to have a good time. By the way, people, there's nothing wrong with just dating like how white people date, I date someone this day, I date someone. There's nothing wrong with just dating someone and saying, hey, I just want to get to know you. That's it. No strings or anything. You don't have to. It doesn't mean that, no, I need to sleep with you too and all that. No, you can just date. You can just have a good time, meet someone, have some conversation, interact, and all that good stuff, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with saying that either, okay? So that people's feelings don't get hurt. But again, at the end of the day, it's your job, it's your responsibility to manage expectations. Listen, it's time to go. I want to shout you all out. Thank you so much, but please, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to share this with a couple people you think may be interested, entertained, enlightened, engaged by this overall conversation that we've had this evening. Please share. Let this thing grow. I think this is something that needs to be out there, just having some dialogue. And remember what I mentioned. We'll have some guests in the future. We'll also have additional topics, specific topics we're going to discuss. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person at a relationship script near you, okay? This is Donovan, a.k.a. The Hitchmaster, and this has been a Wednesday with Wes. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.